Allie. Join me as I create the Double Braided DiscDuo Bracelet. We're going to be using some Potomac exclusives for this, so make sure to go below the video, look at the descriptions, and you can get the links there to purchase from us online. Gather up your materials on a bead on it board, and let's get started. So to begin, this is a 2-needle project. I did the sample with 1 needle, and we need the 2 to kind of help balance it, especially if you pull tight like I do. So the positive with a 2-needle is that you get to put on the clasp right away. The negative is you have to thread 2 needles. I'm going to begin by putting one of the needles, and I'm using size 8 dragon thread. I have the black color. I would usually use green with this, but you can see the black a little bit better. And I have equal amounts on either side putting through the clasp. I'm going to use a infinite clasp here and put one of the cabs in it. And we're going to begin with the center row of the bracelet. The center row of the bracelet is just going to be disc duos, 15s, 11s, and our 4mm pearl. We are going to begin with a 15, 11, 15 on both the right needle and the left needle. Once you have that on those, go ahead and put on your first 4mm pearl. And we're going to put both needles through the pearl going the same direction. So both needles go through here, and you're going to pull them and make sure that you have equal amounts of thread on each side. That'll go right up to that clasp. Separate your needles and thread out, and you're going to repeat the same thing. 15, 11, 15. Pick up a disc duo. 15, 11, 15. Pick up a pearl. Now you notice I did that all with 1 needle. Sometimes I group it like that because it'll be faster. I'll put that needle down, and now I do the same thing. Do my 15, my 11, my 15. I'm going to go through the disc duo that's already there through the second open hole. 15, 11, 15, and go through the pearl. That's all the whole center line of the bracelet is. Really, really simple. You want to make sure as you're doing it, kind of push it to both ways. That way it sits nice and in the middle. Go ahead and do this for a total of about 6.5 to really 8 inches. It's going to be the center of your bracelet, and then we're going to build the sides up from there. Once you get to the end of the design, it's time to put on the other clasp. So we have our middle base right here with just that pearl disc duo rotation and the seed beads on either side. And I'm separating out my needles after my last pearl to go ahead and make it match the other side. I have on my 11 in the middle of my 2 15s, and I'm going to go through the clasp on the opposite side, making sure that it's facing up, that my beads aren't twisting in the middle. So it's a good idea here just to go in like this and kind of flatten it out. Make sure you've got it right. And you're going to take your needle and thread through one way and through the opposite way. So the needles are going 2 different ways through that soldered end. If you have a clasp that doesn't have a soldered end, I would recommend using a wire guard for it, because that's going to make sure that the thread doesn't go through any jump rings or anything. From here, we are going to build our next level onto our design. And our next level is going to be a combo of all the sizes of seed beads, the 15s, the 11s, and the 8s. We're going to do this kind of inner row here that starts that secondary side of the braid, connecting to the disc duo and going around the pearl and seed beads. So what we're going to do is we are going to go in and bring our thread and needle the whole way out through the disc duo. So take your needle that was on the right, go down through the right side here, back through the pearl, through the seed beads, and then you're going to exit right out the disc duo. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll get ready to come down through it and add in our extra seed beads along the sides. So coming down the sides here, what you want to do is get a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right, but your needles are not crossing over and they're not sharing any beads. You can see I've done this on the left-hand side 3 times already. I got to keep going, but here on the right, you have 1 15, 3 11s, 1 8, 3 11s, 1 15. Coming out the disc duo, you're just going to simply skip over that entire section of 4mm beads and seed beads and go into the next disc duo. And that's it. So we're going to do that the whole way down the project, coming out here and doing that 1 15, followed by 3 of my 11s, followed by 1 8 over there on the side, followed by 3 more 11s. I know this view is close, but I wanted to show that all you're doing after you have that combo of beads, oh, I forgot my 8, is sewing right through the disc duo. Continue down, making that outer loop of the bracelet. It's also a nice way to show that if you don't want the bracelet to be wider and to add the extra row of pearls, this one is pretty just as is. Again, just showing that line here and just showing it as a pretty little bracelet that you can stop with this design. Instead, we're going to keep going. So I'm coming out of my last disc duo, and the needle that's on the right, I'm going to use this to reinforce the clasp. Going back through the seed beads, back through the pearls here, and we're going to loop through then the clasp here, putting a second strand of thread through that loop. With the other side, we're going to do the same thing and get another strand going through the loop. The thread and needle then will come out opposite ends of the clasp, and we're going to feed back down, come out through that pearl, and what we're going to start to do is grab on to the 8/0 along the side. So we need to get our needle and thread out there to the opposite side. And again, I've only done this with one needle and thread. So you're going to do the same thing with the other one. Going through here, wiggling through, going through that disc duo, coming out the side here. Try not to get any seed beads. If you do, you can always sew back through. Take your needle and thread up through the seed beads, coming out and exiting through the 8/0. We're going to get our other needle there in place, and then we're going to jump basically and what looks like braiding our threads and braiding our seed beads from 1 8 to the other. You can see I've already done some on the left-hand side. I started on the right and then thought, oh no, I still need to record this. So when you're coming out the 8/0, you are going to do a progression here of 15 2 11s, and 8 a 4, an 8, 2 11s, and a 15. Once you have that on your thread and needle, you jump over to the next 8 that sits on the outside of the inner pearl. When you go through the 8, try as much as possible to make sure that you're not going towards the interior of the thread or through any seed beads. You're kind of going towards the exterior of that bead. That'll make that sit out a little bit nicer as you're going through and doing it. You're going to continue that down the right and the left to get kind of that braided look on both sides of the disc duo. I also forgot to mention, as you're doing this, this is that secondary color of seed bead. I wanted a little bit more purple on that exterior, so jumped in from the brass and made it into that purple eggplant color to highlight that disc duo as you're going. Love the lattice look that it's getting with that nice lacy braid going on both sides. Once you're finished coming down and adding the seed beads along the side, what we're going to do is just reinforce and then tie off. So we already have 2 strands of thread going through that, or 3 strands of thread rather, going through that baseline. And what I'm going to do is bring my needle and thread up through those seed beads, retracing that thread step, and just go right through here, through the disc duo, kind of wiggle it through that 15. And all we're going to do is run this thread and needle the whole way up and around and down, and I'm going to come out right before that disc duo. We're going to bring this thread up through the seed beads, and we're going to exit this right after that 15/0 by the disc duo, right there. So this thread's going to come over, attached to here, and we're simply going to tie that off. Going up then through, looping around, coming over, tying off. Now that the thread ends are together, I'm just going to take one side right over left, left over right, tie these right here next to my disc duo. And then it's always a good idea to separate out the needles. So take the needle in one here, and if you can, kind of bring it out another space, going not around the project. Kind of loosen that up there, take it back around. And then when you take these down opposite directions, what that allows you to do is to go in and just simply heat up your thread burner, burn those thread edges down right off the piece, and then burn it flat as close as you can to the project wherever that thread end might be ending. And that is simply the end then of your double braided DiscDuo bracelet. Last thing I need to do is go into my button end here, take a little bit of E6000 glue, glue that in and finish it up. When you wear it, again, you can stop really at any level of creation, and it has just that nice lattice look. Would also be great for a choker as well. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, if you ever need any supplies, go ahead and look below the video in the description, and we'll put links there to get back to our site to gather everything. Also, don't forget to hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.